What if I told you that the richest people on this planet don't start with money in their pockets, but with a different operating system in their minds, and the way they think about every decision slowly shapes the life they live? Would you believe that training your brain to think rich might actually be more powerful than winning the lottery? Imagine this. Two kids grow up in the same neighborhood, same school, and same struggles, but one ends up stuck in a cycle of paycheck-to-paycheck survival, while the other breaks through, building assets, freedom, and wealth that seems untouchable. What happened in between wasn't luck, it wasn't some secret inheritance, it was the way the brain got trained to process opportunities, risks, and even failures. Rich thinking isn't about sitting on a pile of gold, it's about rewiring the subconscious so that instead of saying, "I can't afford this," the mind begins asking, "How can I afford this?" And that tiny shift, almost invisible at first, creates ripples that compound across a lifetime. People think it's just motivation or positive thinking, but it's much deeper. It's the neural circuits, the habits carved into the brain from constant exposure to ideas of growth instead of fear, from treating money as a tool instead of a trap. Think about how most of us are trained. We're taught to avoid mistakes, to stay safe, and to protect what little we have, and that conditioning builds a survival mindset. But the brain, trained for wealth, plays a different game. It sees failure not as an ending, but as tuition, a fee you pay for the lessons that can't be learned in school. And the science backs it up. Neuroplasticity shows us that your brain is always rewiring, always reshaping. And if you feed it scarcity thoughts like "money runs out," "the rich are greedy," or "I'll never get ahead," you carve deep grooves of limitation. But if you consciously feed it rich thoughts like "money circulates," "opportunity is everywhere," or "skills can be learned," those grooves change, and suddenly the same world looks like a totally different map. The person with a poor mindset sees a bill as stress. The person with a rich mindset sees the same bill as a challenge to create more income streams. One sees a closed door, the other sees a chance to build a new one. And it's not some mystical trick. It's small, gritty, almost boring shifts, like reading books on wealth instead of gossip, tracking expenses instead of ignoring them, surrounding yourself with ambitious people instead of complainers, and choosing to invest time in building a skill instead of binge-watching hours of distraction. Over time, those micro-decisions stack up, and the brain literally starts to crave growth, the way it once craved comfort. The crazy part? Training your brain for wealth often begins long before the money shows up. People who eventually become wealthy often live years where the outside world can't see the shift happening, because the training is silent. It's happening in the background while they're driving an old car and eating cheap meals, but their brain is secretly being rewired to think in terms of ownership, leverage, compounding, and freedom, while everyone else stays stuck thinking about the next Friday paycheck. Rich thinking doesn't mean you stop feeling fear. It means you start moving even with fear present. It doesn't mean you avoid loss. It means you learn how to use losses as raw material for your next strategy. And slowly, something wild happens. You stop measuring life in hours worked and start measuring it in assets created, in value delivered, and in impact multiplied. That's why when people say, "the rich get richer," they miss the real story. It's not just about money. It's about the brain trained to keep multiplying results in a world where most people only multiply excuses. And here's the twist. Anyone can start this training, but most people won't because it feels uncomfortable at first. The brain fights back. It clings to safety, and it whispers that change is too hard and that you're not ready. But the truth is, the minute you start feeding your brain new inputs through books, mentors, and calculated risks, you flip the switch and your entire identity begins to shift. That's the quiet secret the wealthy never really explain out loud. Their wealth started in their thinking long before it showed up in their accounts. And if you start today, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, your brain will begin to rewire itself too. And that's the first real deposit into the account of your future freedom.